Welcome to the Brave Family Podcast, everybody, with Shishelle Rosner, my boss over here, my beautiful wife, and myself, JJ Rosner, and where we believe that strong families build strong communities and that you can have the family that you always wanted. And in this podcast, we're talking about family culture, and this is our second episode. Last time we talked about what this whole family culture thing means, and today we're going to get a little bit more into it, into the nitty gritties of, you know, how we're creating family culture and all that stuff.
I love family culture because family culture is so much about the feel of your family. And the great news is you get to make it whatever you want it to be, but it doesn't happen by accident.
It doesn't happen by accident. I mean, and the reality is that we either have a family culture that's by default or by design. The reality is right now your family has a culture, and you know what? It's probably a little bit created by outside forces, and it's probably a little bit created by your family. But what we want is we want you to be able to design your family culture. We want you to define it for yourself. You get to write the rules of what kind of family you're going to have. Like your neighbors, your school,
your in-laws,
the internet. They don't get to define that for you.
And internet,
come on,
that's
somebody.
a big one.
You know, for some of us, let's be honest. You know, the internet is raising your kids.
TikTok is driving the bus that your kids are on.
But we want to help you define it because you get to write your own rules, right?
Yeah, and society is so pulling for they want control over the kids because they've monetized the children.
They have.
And I think, you know, as kids, you know, well, we were really young when we had our first, but we were naive. We thought, oh, the schools have our best interests at heart. They're all about the children. When really the schools had their financial interests at heart and the children had been monetized as pawns in a game of Monopoly that we didn't know we were even in.
I know. And so as a result, though, it affected what we were doing when we were raising our families. And when we started to decide, hey, what are we doing? Like we get to write the rules. Like this is our family. It's not their family.
Yeah.
And God love all of our in-laws. It's not their family either,
it's not.
Right? Like once we get married, this is
our
family,
team,
right? Like once you get married, like this is your team now.
Yeah.
Like you get to create your own team.
Nobody else gets to throw the balls and strikes.
That's right.
On our team.
Throw the balls and strikes. They don't get to call the balls and strikes. No
strikes.
umpires and referees in our families.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. But your family doesn't have to look like anybody else's family. It gets to look like the family that you want.
Right.
And that's the important part of this.
So good.
Is that, man, you know, like, especially with all of the expectations that are on you and your family and your life that are on us and our family and our life, like, man, our family doesn't have to look like anybody else but the Rosners. We're the Rosners. Insert your last name there. You get to decide what it feels like to be a Smith or a Johnson or a Rosner or, you know, whoever you are. And there's some real benefits to designing your own family culture.
Right.
Shishelle, tell us like some of the benefits that we've experienced just in being intentional about being Rosners.
Oh man, I think you know, one of the things that I saw you do that was so great is you were always quick to repent. And I know that sounds, you know, that's kind of old language, but you were so good at saying, I'm sorry, and owning your stuff when you were wrong and teaching the kids how to do that. And for me, that was really hard. You know, I just had to choke it out.
Classic moment here right now where my wife is pointing out that I was wrong. You know what I'm saying?
No, I'm fine. No, I would rather die than have to do an apology, right? And so I actually learned to apologize from you modeling being quick to accept ownership, being quick to ask forgiveness, and that built into our family a great piece of culture where it actually took out the fear of failure for our kids.
Oh, absolutely. And because here's the deal: I'm not perfect. I mean, I've lost my temper and yelled at my kids when I shouldn't. You know, like I've blown it for sure. With
as we have, we both have
in our relationship. But being able to, you know, ask for forgiveness, repent, admit that I'm wrong. What it did is it gave them the freedom to be able to do that as well. You know, I think sometimes, you know, we get our egos involved, especially dads with their sons and daughters admitting when they're wrong. And then what they don't realize is that they're not even modeling that type of behavior for their kids. And then they get mad at their kids when their kids can't apologize, when their kids can't say that they're wrong, and when they're not teachable, you know.
Right. And then you even attached a sticky statement to that of, hey, own your stuff. And so it was just a good like a reset button for the kids where they had to acknowledge, am I taking ownership of my behavior?
Yeah.
Like they know the why, they know the reason they're supposed to do something, they know that it's a family value, but are they able to take ownership of their behavior in that moment? And
that was a huge benefit of us really defining what our family culture was going to be, because one of our values became we're going to keep short accounts. In other words, we're going to own our stuff, and we're going to be quick to forgive. You know, we're going to repent. We're going to come back to our family. At the end of the day, you know, what's that old adage? You can't pick your friends, or you can't pick your you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. Let's see if I can say it right. You know what I mean? And so if that's the case, then we're going to try to make it the best that we can.
Right. So I think, you know, if we look at parenting by default, you know, the Disney Channel's raising our kids. What do? They scream at each other. They yell at each other. They blow it all the time. But of family value to us was just being quick to forgive, you know, owning our behavior. And so it created these great on-ramps right back to, hey, you're going to blow it. You're going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to try something just because you don't think you'll be very good at it. Right. Go ahead, have the freedom to fail forward, but always be quick to come back to the path that you know is right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another benefit of designing your family culture or defining your family culture rather is we're setting the identity of our family.
Identity is so huge right now.
What does it mean to be a Rosner? But it's such a big deal because identity seems like it's fluid in culture right now because nobody will tell these kids who they are.
That's right. You know, we were just visiting with a friend in our same school district, and they said that the 6th grader had chosen a new identity, had picked a new name because the teachers had encouraged the kids to choose their pronouns, pick their name, and this young person had changed their name. And the parents, it was the first the parents had heard about it. You know what I'm saying?
We're like Gen Xers in the house. Like that drives us crazy, but it's happening whether we like it or not.
It's the reality. It's the world we live in right now.
And let me just, you know, I'm so glad that we had friends around us that gave us permission to pick our identity and to own it, you know. And if we can do anything, we want to give you the permission to say, hey, listen, you get to pick your family identity.
That's right.
Nobody else gets to pick your family identity for you or the identity of your kids. Because it's our job as the leaders in our house to tell our kids who they are.
Right.
I mean, my goodness, it's not until they're in their mid-20s that their prefrontal cortex is even developed. They do not have the biological ability to make those decisions, and yet we're telling them in 6th grade they can just choose whoever they want to.
They're trying to figure out how to do their signature, what kind of lettering they want to put on their paper, if they're going to write in cursive or not. It's not the time to pick your name.
Yeah, and so I think, you know, I mean, huge benefit to defining who you're going to be
because
as a family.
Confidence comes with that. Security comes with that. You know, freedom from shame comes with that. Just that piece of not being afraid to fail. All of that kind of is a benefit of parenting by design.
Well, and piggybacking on that, I think authenticity is a big deal there too.
Very good.
Because, man, if you know who you are, you can be authentically you without judgment.
Right.
You know, like, man, that's a big deal.
Well, and when you're authentic with your kids, you're building trust, right? So you're always building a road for them to come back to you because they know you're a place of safety, and that is paramount.
Not that you're perfect, but that you're authentic.
But that gives them permission that they don't have to be perfect either, and they don't have to live in fear. They don't have to. That's taking away that undercurrent of insecurity in their life because they know when they blow it, they've got a safe place to go and they've got an easy access to get right back on path.
Yeah, that's right. And you know, as you go through this process of defining, you're going to also have to. You're also going to have to come to the realization of what's created the current culture in your family and put a name to those things. Like, is it the expectations of others? Is it current society? Is it the internet? Is it whatever? And you know, those can be hard because you got to kind of own some of the, you know, sometimes whether they're mistakes or failures that you feel. But the beautiful part of that is that when you're authentic, man, you can just you can own that and you move on. It's like, that's what it is, but that's not what we want it to be. Right. And I feel like so many times when we have this conversation with middle-aged parents, you know, parents of kids that are a little older, they're like, well, man, I wish I would have known that when my kids were little, because then when they were little, we could have started this from scratch. But the reality is that, man, you can start this wherever you are, because what you're saying is that today, this is who we are from this day forward. Like, man, hey, we did that in the past. That's true. That's right. But that's not what we're going to do anymore. That's not not who we are. And so a place for us to start when we're talking about defining our family culture is you have to have a vision for what you want your family to be, right? You have to have like a picture in mind of this family that you want to have, and who the Johnsons are going to be moving forward.
What do we want our family to feel like? What do we enjoy doing together? What are the values that we have as a family that we're going to shape the behavior around, and then reinforce those values?
Yeah, that's right. And in the family culture framework, and you can download that in the notes below. The link will be there and stuff. It's free. We just want to give it to you and help you out. But it'll help walk you through how to start to define what the family culture that you want to have is. And so, but here's the question though. The question becomes, well, what if we're not currently experiencing what we want to have? Well, that's the purpose for this.
That's right.
You know, it's not being inauthentic to admit to yourself that you're not experiencing the life that you want. No. You're just saying, hey, this is like, until now, this has been our experience, but where we're going somewhere else.
Yep.
You know, and so you have to start with a vision for your family, right?
I think just, call a family meeting, get everybody around the table, bust out some popcorn, talk about where you're at and where you want to go, and maybe where you've blown it in the past, maybe introduce some authenticity, but just go for it because you're a team and you can do it together.
That's right. And let the 4-year-old little girls tell you about how they want to be a princess, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they want to be part of Frozen, and they want their family to be like Elsa, and and all of the things, and the little boys, whatever is in their mind.
But you know what I love about doing this too?
Here's my problem. Okay. I'm old. Right. And
well,
our kids are a little bit grown. And so like my experience with what I think little kids want is probably not
a little removed. But
removed from reality.
I think it's really great because, as we're talking about parenting, it's not just for parents of littles. Yeah. It's not just for the beginning stages. But by doing this in the beginning stages, you're also giving your kids permission as they develop their own families to have authenticity, to have a strong identity. Hey, your family doesn't have to look like our family, but you get to write your own rules.
That's exactly
and there's a lot of freedom in that.
And there's a legacy to be left there.
Absolutely.
So you got to be able to define. Do not allow the world or anyone else to dictate who your family is going to be. Do not allow your culture to be defined by default. You get to define it, because remember, you get to have the family that you've always wanted.